Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is balancing both the tilt and the roll axis. A lot of guys have a hard time being able to balance the camera where it stays, it'll stay still where you put it on the tilt axis. For these cameras, because of the way they are, what most guys do is to raise the plate. And I got this idea off from the free fly board from Steve Maurer, who suggested to use half-inch spacers and 50mm bolts. And on the screen I'm going to put the actual reference to where you can get these and the actual dimensions of the parts are. That helps raise this up considerably, which will allow you to be able to move it where it'll stay in balance. So I'm going to, right now I have this out of balance. So as you can see, now I'm going to go ahead and all I have to do is rotate the camera a little bit to get it to go in balance. So right there, that's perfect on the vertical, on the tilt balance. Now as you can see, these free-flowing bearings, this is a really nice fluid motion. A lot of guys, what they end up doing, also they don't recognize as that these horizontal bars have to be in line with each other, both the left and the right side, so that the bearings don't lock, so that it actually will give you a nice smooth motion up and down. There's 4 bolts on the back bar that will loosen 2 for each clamp. One clamp here, one clamp right here, and that allows you to be able to move this bar back and forth. So let's talk about balancing the roll axis now. What I found was even after I properly was able to balance the roll axis, the position was constantly moving. So what I did was I got the metal clamps that Freefly sells from Quadricopter, and that allows me to be able to get a lot more clamping force on the bars. So I got 4 clamps all together. I have one right here so that it's going to hold the horizontal bar from moving, and this right here, in addition to the other side, will hold the axis rock solid. Part of making sure the roll axis is going to be balanced is making sure the camera is perfectly balanced from side to side as well. And that's going to make sure that you're going to have to move these boom clamps left to right ever so slightly. And so what I do is with the belt off, I will ever so slightly move the boom clamps. As you can see, I have a lot of permanent markers on there that help me guide it through. And even a 64th of an inch or a 32nd of an inch left to right will help me get that ever so slight balance to be perfect on the roll axis. And for me, after hours and hours and hours trying to get this right, that took out my roll twitch that I was seeing. So after I get the roll axis in adjustment, I'll go back, take the belt off on the tilt again, double check my tilt, because they can affect each other. So it's going back and forth. It's kind of a tedious process. I'm pretty meticulous about this adjustment, and for me to balance the whole camera, it can take an hour or so. But once it's set, it's set. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you how I get my belts on. And as you can see right here how I'm sticking it up, it just barely fits. And it has a pretty good bounce to it. I want to talk about what I see a lot of guys often overlooking is actually making sure the whole gimbal itself is balanced center of gravity wise, so that when you're going to bolt your gimbal to the copter, it's not going to throw off the balance of the copter. So let's go into that and see how we're going to do that. The first thing that I do is I just take some regular fishing line, just like 40-pound fishing line is fine, and I just take a fishing sinker like this, tie a knot in it, double knot it actually, and then I bring it up through like this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang the actual gimbal itself and suspend it on my ceiling. I got the gimbal suspended to my ceiling, and now that's going to give me a real good indication on where my center of gravity for the entire gimbal is, from left to right and front to back. So when I take a standard level and I'll put it up on the plate itself, and it'll tell me how far actually out of adjustment it really is. So right now I have it perfect. For me, what I struggled with, or what really threw me fits, was getting the left to right and dialed in perfectly. And even though I moved the down tube position, I could swivel it a little bit left to right, which I'll show you in a second. I didn't have enough adjustment on there for me without it looking really funny. So I actually had to take a dead LiPo battery, it was no longer good, and I stuck it right here on a landing gear. And that gave me, and it came right in perfectly. So it added a little extra weight to my gimbal, but I would rather have the gimbal balanced, and which results in the copter being balanced a lot more than just a little, maybe 15-20 seconds less of flight time. So I make sure all my accessories are where I'm going to have them in flight. And then what you can actually do is you can possibly, if it's just a little out here and there, you can move your accessories around a little bit and you can experiment. But right now, for the left to right adjustment, the easiest thing to do after you set all your accessories up is to loosen the double clamp here for the down tube, and that allow you to be able to swing your down tube slightly from left to right. And that will pretty much give you the flexibility for the balance for left to right. What you can also do, if depending upon the type of camera you have, but you could possibly just rotate the down tube ever so slightly, a couple degrees here and there, and that can also help. But then you have to make sure that your camera will be off to a slight angle. It won't be looking straight out. So I try to keep it where I don't rotate the down tube and just keep it looking straight out. Okay, so I'm going to check the front to back balance the same way as I do the side to side. Put my level on the plate and take a look at where it is. Right here is actually perfect, but to get there, what I actually have to do, and what you'll have to experiment, was actually taking the down tube and moving it slightly front to back off of this boom right here. And I actually seen that even if you move it this a 1/16 of an inch, it can move the center of gravity from front to back a lot. So you'll have to experiment with it, but once it's set up, it doesn't have to be reset. You might want to check it once in a while, but once this is set up, it's nice. So once you have everything done, what then I'll do is I'll bolt the gimbal to the copter and then suspend the copter and check the balance on the copter, just to double check everything. Again, you might not have to do that, or you may not prefer to do that, but I like to have making sure that the balance on everything is dead on. Really makes a big difference for the flight performance, how the copter responds, battery time, motor temperatures, everything. So I find the balancing a very important part of this. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys on the forum.